I want to start just real quick before I get into this video showing you. This was fun to make because this is over months. This is probably the longest time span we've ever done on a video, but I wanted to show you how I've harvested, how I collected the scion wood from Champanel grapes, to rooting them, to, potting them up, all the way to putting them in the ground. All right, let's show you. I want to propagate this as a Champanel, and I'm going to take some cuttings and I'm going to root them and see if I can grow some more vines. So when you're doing something like this, I like to get something that's got a little bit of size, not a little tiny stuff, but a good sized cane. All right, I'm gonna try to cut. Normally you just trim this guy off and throw him away, but let's come around here, and I've already got a few, so I'll cut that right below a node and get 2, 3, I guess about 4, and that's a pretty good cut. You can see these that I've already done, and right here what you're watching is I'm making a fresh cut on this grape, and the reason is it's fresh. If there's any callus or anything that moved over, I'm getting back to real fresh wood before I start rooting. And usually there's a little node there. You saw me cut that off, and now I'm scraping this to just past the cambium layer so that I can get root hormone there. And I'll dip it in the root hormone, and I usually come back and paint it to make sure I get it on all those places where I've scraped the bark, if you will. I usually let it dry at this point, and then eventually I'll put them in the dirt and, go on from there. It's quite amazing. 11 days later, it's only been 11 days since that last clip of me showing, rooting. These things have started to push out buds. Again, these are Champanel, and I showed you in an earlier video how we rooted these. They've taken root, they've put out, and now we're going to subdivide them and put them in their own pot so we can grow them out. Carefully, gently, whatever other adjectives you want to use, I'm going to get them out of here. That's a good sign right there. Nice big white roots. And maybe I can get these broken out without, you can see I'm really trying to be gentle, but that's nice roots, especially for no longer than they've been going. That had a really good year this year on roots. And like I probably said on the Cynthianas or the Nortons, it looks like to me they rooted where I scored, not necessarily on the bottom. This is a really good example. I'm glad this one, I guess, did this so that I can show it to you. He didn't root. He just used whatever energy he had in the stick to push foliage. You see how horrible it looks now, but he's running out of energy, and the root didn't take. So this one's dead. And I have to really caution myself. I've had years where I thought, I saw that thing budding out, and I would go, it's made it. We got a grapevine, and then they die, and I dig them up, and there's no roots. So I don't know what. I guess don't count your chickens before they hatch, but yeah, he's trying. I started to say when I pulled him out, it was like this, but I'm gonna repot that one. He's got some little roots showing up. That's good. Let me get these in pots and we'll go with champanels. All right, much as before, put a little dirt in there to get a base because I don't want to put these roots on the bottom of the pot. I'll put them in there and I'll start backfilling. Get him covered. Really gently pack the dirt. I don't want to just ram my fingers in there because I'd tear the roots off. So I'm just kind of lightly packing. I don't want to get below, I really want it to be in the same level as it was in that other pot when it rooted. And that's pretty good. And I'll repeat this a few times and then show you when we're done. Now, I've had folks ask me why go to the trouble to do this, because you can tell just from watching these videos, it's not strenuous work, obviously, but it takes time. I've got a little time invested in these, from harvesting the stems when I trim my grapes back in the in January and February, and the other videos I showed you where we started trying to root them, and now just repotting them. And yeah, it'd be a whole lot easier just to give a nursery, and I'm not knocking the nursery business, but if you wanted to do a few of these, 20, 30, I'm probably up to more than that. I think I've got about 80 grapes and almost 200 muscadines set out. It would get expensive paying $12 to $15 a piece for grapevines. So that's one reason I do it. I kind of like the knowing how and seeing what works and what doesn't work. My grandparents and great grandparents that lived in this area, they did this out of necessity. There wasn't many wholesale nurseries that you could call up and have plants delivered. I've told you this before, but in this part of the lower Appalachians, most of the time you got a cutting from a neighbor. One of your neighbors may do grapes. One of your neighbors may graft apple trees. Everybody kind of had today we'd call it a niche. And they traded around with each other. You take and I'll trade you these grapes for these pear trees or whatever you had. So I have found enjoyment in learning to do this, and I guess in some ways cheating. I use hormones that they didn't have. There's probably a lot of different ways, but it's still the same product. I enjoy doing these plants, and I give most of them away because I'm about out of room. I don't have a clue where I would put another 45 starts. So I'm sure these will all be given away. But it's kind of neat to, I don't know, on some level, I guess it's kind of neat to see how they did it, and if you can, replicate it. Sometimes you just get enjoyment out of, a month ago, that was a stick, just a dead looking, lifeless stick. And we've brought it to here, and we'll see. It'd be neat to follow this all the way through and show it for 2 or 3 years until it started bearing grapes. I don't know if I have the fortitude to do that, but we'll see. All right, that's enough yapping. Let me get to work. All right, I'm about to go on break, and that really just means I'm going to reload with dirt and start over again. But I wanted to show you ever how many that is. 15 and how they look before they're potted up. Here's an example of before, and then that's after. And I hope that that's enough for about 5 or 6 months, because I'd like to go from here to the ground. And, you know, what's the phrase? The best laid plans of mice and men. That don't necessarily mean that that'll work out that way, but that's my hope. Thanks for watching. Last time you saw this guy, he was just the stick, and we were rooting him. And it's time to set him out. And I don't want to go. You want to concentrate all the growth into a main trunk, 1 liter, whatever you want to use for word. And I'm trying to figure out which one to do. This looks higher on the root, but this looks like a better deal. So I think we're going to start by taking that out and any kind of green associated with that. Now let's look. If you'll look at these nodes, they put out kind of 2 things from each node. A leaf and a runner, a shoot. I don't know what words you want to use, but this is eating energy. This is making photosynthesis. So I like to cut these out. You can see how big that one is. You know, if you leave that alone, it'll get big. It'll get as big as the main, and it'll use all the nutrients, all the sugar. So I go up through here and clip those out. Do as you want. When I first started doing grapes, I was nervous, apprehensive about cutting all this foliage out. What I've learned is you're trying to foster up, because when they get to the wire, I'll completely cut it off, decapitate it, and then it'll throw 2 arms and go down the wire. So that's the quick, easy. When you got, you know, I didn't do this earlier because a lot of times when they're really, really young, you don't know which one's going to be the primary shoot and which one's, you know, not going to be as healthy. So I like to wait a little while. This is probably 3 months old. And you can see how it's done really well in 3 months. But we're gonna, now that we're gonna plant it in the ground, we're gonna focus all its energy into going. And then I guess I can probably make another one when we get to the wire and we talk about training them how to get the split. But right now, let's just take away all this extra energy that it's losing. We'll leave those for photosynthesis. You see, I can go ahead and take these little bitty ones out. You don't have to wait until they get big. But now I know that looks stripped and naked, and it is, but that'll go to town. That'll really grow now. One other thing I noticed while I was doing this, I got it stripped. This is, if you're ever gonna mess up, this is where you'll mess up. That joint, that was a bud, and you know, buds make stems, but that is the most vulnerable section of this plant. And we're gonna take it out and the wind's blowing, and it's gonna be hard to handle. And I don't wanna jeopardize that joint. So a lot of times you can use anything. I have a tapener because I have so many vines, but I'll tape that. These break off. They break down over time, and if the plant grows, it'll snap those. But that's overkill, but that's just a little bit of extra protection from us handling it. So that's it. Here we're finally getting it to go in the ground. And what Cindy's doing here is called teasing the roots. But the roots, they're bad to grow in the shape of a pot because, that's their world. That's their environment. So to encourage them to spread out in the ground, I like to come back in there and pull the roots out of that ball, out of that wad, and then start putting, dirt on them and getting them planted. A lot of folks obsess over the size of the holes. Is it 2 times? Is it 3 times? I don't. Grapes are easy, and we just dig a hole it's probably twice as big, and it's enough to get regular soil in around that root ball and pack it in, because you don't want any air pockets around the roots. The roots don't like air. They like dirt. And you'll see her, push that dirt down the sides, and it stabilizes it, and it gets rid of the air pockets. And we'll come back in the end and completely water it, just like you're going to drown it. And what you're really doing there is getting those air bubbles to move up. You might also notice that it's just a little low in the hole, maybe an inch, not much, but just enough to where I've learned as I water these, and you'll have to water these, as you water these, it's nice to have almost like a little well there, a place for the water, so it just doesn't run off and not benefit the plant. So I'm not really planting it deep, but I am just a tad. The next step in this odyssey is these blue tubes, and we'll talk about blue tubes. What you're seeing is putting the plant up in the blue tube and pushing the blue tube all the way down to the ground, and it helps on a lot of things. It's got some scientific magic that the Blue X people talk about how it helps photosynthesis, and I don't know anything about that. But what it does do is protect these young plants from me. I do use some herbicide sometimes, and this keeps me from spraying these new little plants. To kind of finish this deal, we got the blue tube on it. Now, you don't have to have a tapener. You can use anything to tie them up. But I do tie them to this pole because now I'm in a race with this plant to get to the top of the wire. This is the last little clip showing these Champanels, and I wanted to show you, I did 9 of these, and they're in a row, and they're all together, and this is what they look like. Everybody's got their blue tubes on and their bamboo pole. This is a fun video. I've really enjoyed showing from start to finish literally on this. Usually I don't, get to do that. We're doing something at a specific time, but this is neat. It was hard, I'll be honest, because I had to hold all these clips for 6 months and not delete them or get rid of them. But I hope you enjoyed that. This has been fun. Obviously, these aren't from the ones we just started, but they're from the plant that I got the sign from. And I just kind of wanted to throw these in here and show you kind of the reason for me doing this. These grapes are fantastic. They're Munson grapes. They're great for the Southeast. If you're looking for a grape with not a lot of work involved in as far as spraying or any of that, this is the one for you. Champanels are great. Hey, thanks for watching, and if you would, take a second to hit the subscribe button for us. It helps us a lot. I appreciate it.